Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we are reacting to San Francisco 49ers mandatory minicamp, and we're going to dive into Brock Purdy's interceptions. What did Trent Williams have to say about his future with the San Francisco 49ers, and discuss every single injury update that was brought to us by head coach Kyle Shanahan today? Is it time to worry about Jauan Jennings, Mykel Williams, and Pearsall, or is it too early to maybe have a worried thought towards those players? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and let's talk about San Francisco 49ers day one of mandatory mini camp. And let's start things off with the non-participants, because everybody was present at the facility today. No absences. The entire team was there, either on the field, in the workout room, or on the sideline. And let's start things off with quarterback Curtis Rourke, coming off a torn ACL surgery he had a couple of months ago. He was on the sideline today working out with trainers and whatnot, but Kyle Shanahan said in his post-practice press conference he will likely not be ready for training camp. So that battle for the QB3 job will, at least early, not lean in Curtis Rourke's favor, and will lean heavily into Tanner Mordecai's favor in the first few days of training camp. But as soon as he can get healthy, the tides may quickly change. Next one of the biggest ones, it was the first sighting of wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk during the off-season program. He's been there every single day working out before practice, where the media cannot see him, been in every single team meeting, being a leader, being a somewhat of a coach in that room to younger guys. But it was the first time we have seen him in person. Had a little pep in his step, a little bit of a jog, but he was wearing sweatpants. He wasn't working out, but it was good to see BA for the first time, really, since he got hurt all the way back in 2024. That said, a lot of people have been thinking he may be ready by week number 1. I am not one of those people, and Kyle Shanahan today, although didn't deny that possibility, Aiyuk is not going to be ready by the beginning of training camp. He didn't say that wouldn't change in the next few weeks or so, but BA will not be ready at the start of training camp. But it was good to see him out there for the first time amongst the team and have this overall more positive aura around him to begin this season compared to last year, where it was all negative at this time of the off season. Jauan Jennings was not on the field today as well. He was on the sideline conditioning. It doesn't seem to be serious, according to Kyle Shanahan, but the more you miss, the more you're concerned. Didn't practice much last week, is not practicing this week as well. My assumption is, being this early into the offseason program, they want to give these guys some time to get healthy. I have no reason to rush Aiyuk, Jennings, or the next guy, Pearsall, back by any means. So my assumption is, don't get too worried, but if it comes training camp and he's not out there, then we can all say what's going on. Don't forget, last year, Christian McCaffrey only had a calf injury until he missed the first 8 games of the year. I'm not saying it's that serious, just saying that things can change really quickly. And San Francisco never likes to give the media or the fan base too much insight this early into the offseason program. Pearsall, who was assumed to be this team's number 1 or number 2 receiver coming into the year with Aiyuk on the shelf, he is healthy enough to practice and has been healthy enough to practice starting today and tomorrow. I don't think he'll take part in tomorrow's practice, based on Kyle Shanahan saying they're going to take things extremely cautious with him and his hamstring. But Shanahan did say, while Pearsall was conditioning on the sideline today, he will be ready to go for day 1 of training camp, which is what we all want to see. Pearsall, Jennings, and hopefully soon to be, in the next month or so, Brandon Aiyuk back out there. See those top 3 dogs out there for Brock Purdy and this offense in the receiving core. But again, not worried about Jennings or Pearsall. Be cautious now, because once the season begins, those guys got to be healthy and ready to go. The next one, Andre Dillard, the assumed backup right tackle to Colton McKivitz. We saw him for the first time today. Didn't partake in team drills And according to Kyle Shanahan, is battling an ankle injury, but he did do some work on the sideline today. Again, no team drills, no pads in practice today. So again, if that's going to be your right tackle to back up Colton McKivitz, rather him be healthy come training camp and preseason compared to a day of OTAs or mandatory minicamp that really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. The other big injury that was announced today was that of Mykel Williams, San Francisco's first-round pick in this past year's draft. He has a hamstring strain or tightness, according to Kyle Shanahan. Didn't practice today, is not going to practice tomorrow, but will be back for training camp day number 1. When the pads come on, you're going to see Mykel Williams back on the field for San Francisco. One of the players I've been more concerned about over the last couple weeks has been second-round pick Alfred Collins. He hasn't practiced one time, hasn't signed his contract yet, but we got news today that the calf injury that he has is trending in the right direction. And although he's yet to practice or sign, he, like Mykel Williams, like Jauan Jennings, and Ricky Pearsall, are expected to practice on day 1 of training camp. So a good sign for Alfred Collins. Hopefully in that big gap in between mini camp and training camp, they can get his deal worked out. So not going to see San Francisco's first 2 picks in this past year's draft the next day or so at minicamp, but we'll see them starting in training camp. Didn't see Yetur Gross-Matos today. According to Kyle Shanahan, he has some lingering knee wear and tear, and knowing that he was away from the team for a long time having a baby, now that he's back, don't rush him back into playing. If he's not healthy, if he has some lingering issues, don't toss him out there. Although there has been some conversations amongst the fan base as to whether Gross-Matos may be cut, the indications I'm getting is no, he's here to stay for at least the remainder of his 1-year contract. So I'd be rather surprised if Gross-Matos is cut, but didn't practice today, is not going to practice tomorrow. But again, like everybody else, back for training camp. Curtis Robinson worked on the side field today. He is not expected to be back by training camp. Tore his ACL in week 3 of the preseason last year, I believe, and I would assume would have been a major factor in the linebacker room last year. Maybe would have been a better person to play instead of Devondre Campbell, but Curtis Robinson not going to be back by training camp. Hopefully he's back by the preseason, but that's a long ways away in the next few months or so. Marquise Siegel was on the side field today. Not really sure why he isn't out there. Haven't gotten an injury update. And not really sure as to why San Francisco's newest safety / cornerback has not been on the practice field one time since he's been drafted. So rather confused. No updates though. So kind of waiting to see why Marquise Siegel has not been out there for the San Francisco 49ers. Got not a big update, but a good update for Malik Mustafa. We saw him doing work on the side field today. He is also, like Curtis Robinson, not going to be back by the beginning of training camp, which isn't shocking, isn't surprising. He has the ACL injury. They're going to take their time with him. I don't think he'll be back likely until at the earliest October, so we'll have a month or so of the regular season to wait to see Mustafa make his debut, and also not going to see him throughout the entire training camp process unless something drastic changes in the next few weeks or so for him. Jair Brown, unlike Mustafa and Curtis Robinson, is going to be back by training camp, according to head coach Kyle Shanahan. He had an ankle cleanup surgery a few weeks ago, was doing some work on the side field today, and will be back. So one of San Francisco's assumed top safeties and starting safeties will be back on the field by next month's training camp. And then George Odom, who we didn't really know what was happening with him. A lot of safeties haven't been practicing in the last couple of weeks, so we're kind of wondering what's going on, who's hurt, who's just getting a vet day off when the media is there. George Odom has been rehabbing his knee. Not exactly sure what the issue is. Doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but he is doing some rehab on his knee and should be good to go by training camp. Before I get into Brock Purdy and company, I want to look into the YouTube chat because Papa J says, "What's up, Sterling?" He says, "Like and subscribe. Please do. Certainly helps me out." Lori Matthews says, "These guys need to hydrate and stretch." And Lori, you're 100% right. I'll tell you now, I live in the high desert. It is hot, hot, hot. I have to hydrate and stretch in my own house to make sure I don't tear something or pull something. It's walking from the couch to the fridge. So those guys out there better make sure they're drinking and stretching. And Kawachipto says, "Sports hernia." Not sure who you're talking about, but yeah, sports hernia, brother. That certainly needs to be talked about. A lot of guys have those early in training camp, so hopefully they're going to be okay once the preseason begins. Moving along, though, to Brock Purdy, because Brock has been having a really good OTA period. And I don't know if that's worth hyping him up or I guess you can say tearing him down for. Brock has looked like the player they're paying him to be, but today was clearly from a box score standpoint, the stat sheet would say his worst performance of the practices we have seen as media members. He has 3 interceptions on the day, and I think Lely says and asks here, all 3 interceptions, were they Brock Purdy's fault or not? Let me explain right now. Because Brock threw 3 interceptions today. One of them was a deep shot to Jacob Cowing that kind of drifted back over the middle of the football field. Jason Pinnock was there, intercepted it. It was like, oh, okay. That's not what you want to see, but you'll take him taking a deep shot downfield. Another one was just blatantly right to D Ford. No excuses there. That was probably the worst one of the day. And the last one was it was an out route to Jordan Watkins. Trey Brown jumped it, picked it off. 3 picks. What do you make of it? I am not somebody that believes training camp interceptions are really worth diving into. I don't think every interception is built the same way. Sometimes a defensive player makes a heck of a play on the football. Sometimes a lot of people go out there and they just watch the stats and they go, this guy was 10 for 16 and they have 3 interceptions and 4 touchdowns. Like, really? Really? That doesn't make any sense. But all 3 of Brock Purdy's interceptions today were Jason Pinnock, D Winters, not D Ford, D Winters. D Ford is no longer on this team. And then Trey Brown. But I do think that practice is the place where you want your quarterbacks to take risks, to make mistakes, to try new things, whether they're rookies or 10-year vets. You want to see if you have the arm strength to fit a certain ball in a window. You want to feel like, hey, can I beat this guy at a certain time? Or can I make that throw into this coverage or whatnot? And practice is the place to do so. My wife currently is learning how to drive, and you make mistakes. You don't hit anybody, of course, but maybe your turn isn't great. Maybe your parking is not great. Practice will hopefully make perfect. Practice prepares you for the real world, prepares you for a regular in-game situation. So throwing interceptions, to me, is never a problem. I've been there in person where Brock's out there slinging that sucker around, being a gunslinger, making plays, and Shanahan's like, that's not the play. That's not the play. What are you doing, Brock? And then you're like, oh, that's a 40-yard touchdown pass. Okay. And that's what kind of separates Brock in a different light from quarterbacks that have been here in previous years. But dissecting the 3 interceptions today, I think it was very clear that Brock Purdy, outside of one of them, that being the D Winters one, that he just didn't see him, that one was like a really bad one. But the other 2, to me, were like Brock is trying to make a play, clearly sees he has the check down open, looks at him and says, nah, I'm going to try to throw this elsewhere. Doesn't work out. And you make a mistake. But if that was happening come game time, like we saw last year with Brock, where sometimes you saw him pressing a little bit and you're like, take your check down, brother. And Brock talked about that when he got paid big money of like trying to get back to who he once was in 2022 in his rookie season of playing in the system, but also making some big plays by himself, reeling himself in, if you will. Today, I think Brock was like, look, it's practice. This is the place to let it rip at times and to grow. And even Kyle Shanahan said, look, like, I don't care about training camp stats. If training camp stats were a really big thing, you'd have a lot of different guys starting and being cut that really have no business playing for NFL teams. A lot of times you see guys in preseason just tear it up. I go back to Capri Bibbs and Thomas Clayton and those guys who are practice squad running backs in the early 2000s or the mid 2010s of like, wow, these guys look great. And it's like, come game day, it's like they're not suiting up at all. Why? Because they aren't good enough. So I think it just depends on the practice, but being there in person, seeing Brock and everything over the last couple of years or so, he's never been a quarterback to sit back, take check downs and just kind of wing it, like, or just kind of take a playoff, if you will. He's always looking for the big play, trying to find the big play and pushing himself and the team because that also prepares the defense, right? And the receivers. How do you react? What do you do? It's tough because there's no pads. So things certainly aren't, in a game-like situation just yet. But I wouldn't make too much of Brock's interceptions, whether to D. Winters or D. Ford, as Papa J points out in the YouTube comments. I really think one of them was his fault, that being to D. Winters. The other two, he's trying things. He's seeing his checkdowns there, saying, I can always have a checkdown option, but let's practice. Let's throw some things at the wall and see if they stick. If they don't, I won't try it again. Or if they do stick, now I know come game time, I can make that play to said receiver or against said coverage against the defensive back. So I love that. I'd rather have Brock try things than be timid because one of the questions here from Strawberry Reacts is it true Mac Jones was just checking it down? And I don't want to say he was doing it a lot. Like Brock Purdy today threw 2 touchdowns, one to Jordan Watkins and one to Kyle Juszczyk, which probably isn't going to get too much hype. Whereas Mac Jones, who, yes, was utilizing check down options, he called Aiyuk, if you will, saw the play out, said, you know what, take the easy route, take checkdowns, and just kind of see what the defense gives you, which is never a bad thing for a backup quarterback. I'd rather my backup quarterbacks run Shanahan's offense. That's where Mac Jones will be the most successful if he has to play this season. Just running exactly what Kyle says, and especially if you have Christian McCaffrey out there as that option for him, it's a really good place to live for a quarterback like Mac Jones, who has thrown a ton of interceptions throughout his career thus far. That said, I don't think Mac wasn't airing it out by any means, but there were some nice throws from him. He had a pretty bad practice last week, but he had a really nice throw to Demarcus Robinson, then one to Jordan Watkins over the middle. So I think this is a perfect example as to what separates Brock from quarterbacks like Mac Jones, who a lot of people assume he's like, oh, he's a system quarterback. He doesn't have the arm strength. He isn't a playmaker. Mac Jones really isn't a playmaker. He's got a little bit of speed. He moves around a little bit, but he's not going to be a playmaker for you. That said, Brock got that 10-yard split like Lamar Jackson, right? He's running around making plays with his legs. He's throwing guys open and whatnot. Whereas Mac Jones is more of that kind of, scheme-friendly quarterback, one that'll do what Kyle says. He can push the ball downfield, but really isn't going to be asked to do so, which is why back in 2021, a lot of people were saying Mac Jones is the fit in the quarterback they were going to pick. But I don't think Kyle was upset about Mac Jones not ripping it, as Kyle Chipto says here in the YouTube comments. But I do think that Kyle would like his quarterbacks to practice a heck of a lot like Brock Purdy. Take some chances. Make a big play. Test your limits now. The reason why Brock ascended so quickly, impressed Kyle so fast, essentially had Kyle saying he's the guy, with 3 other guys in the roster making more money and higher draft status than him in 2022 because he was practicing like his job was on the line, ripping it, going crazy, making plays, pushing buttons, kind of threatening, he was threatening the defense over and over and over again. They're like, oh my God, who is this kid, Brock Purdy? I think Kyle wants his quarterbacks to play and practice a heck of a lot more like Brock Purdy. Now, obviously, some guys can't do that. I wouldn't expect Curtis Rourke, who's a big quarterback, a pure pocket passer, to be like Brock Purdy. But for Mac Jones, who I do think, being a former first-round pick, possesses some more talent than guys like Mordecai and last year's Brandon Allen or guys like that, I do think he wants, people to practice like Brock, because what you don't want is to have a useless rep. Like, a lot of people don't get that you don't waste reps in practice. The play's never over if the ball's in the quarterback's hand still. Play things out. You want to have, you're not getting better if you're simply just check down, check down, check down. You want to push yourself, push the team. And so I do think there may be a little bit to that with Mac Jones, but today was a much better day for him. He wasn't perfect by any means, but nobody is, nobody was. But I do think as a backup quarterback, I think Mac Jones can really excel in this system with Kyle in the offense. But in practice, you may want those guys playing a little bit more like Brock Purdy, pushing things downfield, throw interceptions. As long as they are useful ones, not dumb ones, that's where you want to live, of what can I get away with? Brock is excellent at that, whereas Mac Jones and guys behind them really aren't there yet. But you hope as time progresses, Mac Jones being on a 2-year contract, you hope that's the case for him, backing up Brock Purdy. Some other guys I want to give a shout out to, one of them being Jordan Watkins. I don't know what to tell you, folks. I don't even know what to tell him. If what he was saying was right, that he was not supposed to play this year, he's looking like he may need to. Now, obviously, we aren't in training camp yet. There's no pads on. This isn't preseason. Once he gets into an actual game situation, and we have no idea what the media room or the meetings look like for the team, maybe he's just kind of during the headlights then. But thus far, the physical traits look good from him. He's cutting well, getting open, albeit against defenses that can't put hands on him. So there is that. But he's put together a pretty strong first few weeks of practice. Looks fast, looks quick, and looks like, I don't want to say an instant impact player, but looks like a guy that, although was told you may not play much, he may force a hand at progresses, and I hope that's the case. This team is pointless as the Wi-Fi goes out. That's said, moving along to the Winters, very nice day. Practices or so, he looks like job pain in the ass to him. It really looks like he is kind of gearing up for the next step in his progression in Snyder's offense. Looks really good thus far, and I am going to be shocked if he's not starting next to Fred Warner this year, that being D. Winters. The next guy, Upton Stout, I think had one of the best reps this practice or so. I think he looked really good. He had a phenomenal rep against Christian McCaffrey. CMC tried to bait him on the inside. Stout didn't bite whatsoever, stayed glued to Christian McCaffrey, and Brock Purdy was like, that was my target. I don't know what to do. Threw the ball away, and it was an excellent play. Fred Warner's going crazy, being like, that was awesome. He's cursing at him, being like, that's what we like to see. It was awesome. It was really cool to see. And so I think that for a young player like Upton Stout, who I know a lot of fans want to bring in, Jair Alexander or Jalen Ramsey, was a really good day for him. When you shut down Christian McCaffrey, even if for one rep, that stuff matters. And I think for Upton Stout, that nickel cornerback job is kind of up for grabs, and you really want to see him take that step into taking it into his own. And I'm hoping that he can do so. But a really good rep. CMC goes inside, tries to get him to bite, doesn't, locks him down, and forces a throwaway from Brock Purdy. So a good rep by Upton and Stout, one of the best ones of the day by far. The next guy I want to highlight is Jacob Cowing, because we've talked a lot here on the show, and it's been made a lot of Jacob Cowing's progression in year number 2, bulking up, looking bigger, looking stronger, looking like a more NFL-ready wide receiver. And I think Kyle Shanahan had a really nice quote today about Jacob Cowing, and I'll read it for you right here. He says, "Jacob, I thought put in some of the most work that anyone did over the offseason, and I think it's really transferred over into the OTA practices." And Shanahan is 100% right. Jacob Cowing looks like, I don't want to say an entirely different player, but he looks ready to actually be on the football field at a consistent rate in his sophomore season. He didn't make any amazing plays today, but it's just been more of a steady consistency from him over the OTAs and minicamp practices, which you didn't see last year. It was up and down, and he's not getting reps. Debo's there, and Aiyuk isn't there, but then he's kind of there in the building, but not really practicing. Pearsall is in and out of the building, and it was kind of a head on a swivel season for him, where it's like, we want to see what you can do, but you're getting one rep of practice and it's not great. So he's got really sure hands. I think there is a spot for Jacob Cowing in the offense. I think he's proven to look like a player that isn't going to get played off the field like last year. Like you just saw him last year and said, he's not ready. He doesn't work. But there's so much to like from Jacob Cowing in year 2 thus far. Papa J asks here, is Cowing looking like BA before the pre-contract saga? I wouldn't go that far. Like, we didn't get to see Aiyuk in his first OTAs because of COVID and minicamp and such, but throughout my time at training camp, I wouldn't really compare them. They're different players. But I do think that there is some similarities in that way, but Aiyuk was so much more progressed than Cowing was. Like, Cowing to me fits that gadget, number 4 receiver role behind Jennings, Robinson, and Pearsall in the intermediate before Aiyuk gets back. But I do think he can also stretch the football field. That's really important. Cowing has speed that other guys don't. And because he's gotten bigger and cornerbacks will play press coverage against him, I don't know if they can all the time now, and that stuff matters. Obviously, we'll see when preseason and the pads come on, but he's one player that I think everybody should have circled as, I want to watch that guy, because we have seen more progression from Cowing in year 2 than we've seen from Danny Gray, where it was like he's never getting better. He's always taking one step back. Cowing's making the correct moves and doing the right things to actually see the football field, however early it is in the offseason. So hoping that he can take this performance in OTAs and minicamp over into training camp, because it'll be a big thing for him. What else do we have here on the notes? I do want to talk about Jake Moody for 1 second before we dive into Bryce Huff and Trent Williams, because a lot of people hate Jake Moody. A lot of people are irritated and irate he's still on this football team. And I get it. The struggles have been very evident the last couple of years. 3rd round pick. We all know why Jake Moody has not many fans in the fan base, and maybe even some in the coaching room, knowing they brought in Greg Joseph. Brant Boyer's now here as the coordinator. Bobo says it's the Jake Moody and Jake Brendel portion of the show. Oh, no. I do have some positive things to say for Jake Moody. One, he was 6 for 7 on the day. He made a good PAT. He was good from 34, 40, 47, 52, and 55 yards. All that's great stuff. However, he missed a 36-yard field goal. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, wow, Moody looks so great. He looks so good. He was 6 for 7. Oh, wow. I don't care what Jake Moody does in OTAs, in training camp. If Jake Moody is missing field goals come preseason, he better not be on the roster. You brought in Greg Joseph for a reason, and I'm hoping that they legitimately are going to give them the competition, because what Jake Moody does now means absolutely nothing to me. I have been there and seen Jake Moody hit 67-yard field goals, and then fast forward a month and a half, and he's shanking kicks left and right. I don't care he was 6 for 7. I don't care he hit from 55 yards. I don't even care that he has shortened his stance up. There's less movement. It's more compact. I don't care. It's worth noting, but I simply do not care about Jake Moody's OTA stats, minicamp stats. I don't even care if he goes 1,000 for 1,000 in training camp. If you miss kicks come preseason, you better see yourself out the door. They're irrelevant stats now. It's just dumb. Like, we talk about how much interceptions aren't built the same. Literally, none of the kicks in this portion of the offseason matter to me whatsoever. I don't care. It just doesn't matter. When the lights turn on and he's out there on the football field against the Broncos and the Chargers during preseason, let me know if he's doing well. Because if he is, awesome. Maybe Jake has turned the corner. Maybe he's healthy again. Maybe things are finally right. But if he's not, goodbye. See ya. But I do not care about anything Jake Moody does right now. I get it. It's nice to see that maybe there is some steps in the right direction. But other than that, so what? So what? I've seen him be perfect in camp and then suck in the actual season. So I don't care. Jake Moody was 6 for 7 today. I don't care. He made 2 50-plus yard field goals. That's what you're supposed to do. Like, now, if Jake is 6 for 7 all the time and that's the same percentage he'll carry on to the season, awesome. But I don't care. Prove it to me when it actually matters in preseason and the regular season. But if you can't prove it then, sayonara, sucker. Sayonara. But with that said, as we get into the Bryce Huff and Trent Williams portion of the show, I want to let you guys know, if you want to see your San Francisco 49ers play this year, go to a baseball game this summer, maybe even a concert, you can go ahead and use our promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com, and you can save yourself $20 off your first purchase. I heard Dua Lipa may be playing the halftime show in the Super Bowl this year at Levi Stadium. I may have to go to that thing. And don't tell my wife, but I may have to go to that thing. You're going to see me fangirling for Dua Lipa harder than ever. But I'm going to use that promo code SeatGeek.com. Spend $5,000 for a ticket, but I'll save $20 off for parking. That's how you find yourself a deal, by using that promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com, where you can save yourself $20 off your purchase. That said, let's talk about future Hall of Fame left tackle Trent Williams, because Trent made his return last week, but today was the first day he talked to the media. And when Trent Williams speaks, he isn't always right, but you certainly are going to listen, because he's a presence, great guy. He's a big teddy bear, but also a terrifying guy in the trenches, and also has one of the best track records of success of any left tackle in league history. That said he's feeling extremely healthy this year after last year's ankle injury cost him the second half of the season. He's healthy. He's back in the fray. The ankle isn't a problem, so that's good to know that Trent is healthy. Spencer Burford has been taking most of the reps at backup left tackle. That is probably going to be his role this season, so maybe they can, if Burford's the backup, maybe you'll see some growth there as well. But Trent looks and is talking like he's healthy and ready to go for another year with San Francisco. He was asked kind of where his career is at. Is he going to guarantee he'll play in the next couple of years or not? He didn't want to commit at all to any of that. In fact, he said he's taken his career day by day and year by year. He did joke about playing till he's 41 years old, which isn't the first time he's done that, but you can tell he has his eyes towards playing to 40. He's mentioned it too many times to not to, but knowing that how bad last year was for him on and off the football field, and also knowing that, hey, like if his play dips, Father Time may come calling sooner than he would like him to. No, not everyone can be LeBron James or whatnot, but Trent being 35, 36 years old has had a heck of a career. And it wouldn't shock me if he steps away after this season. If he has an injury or two, or maybe he just doesn't look like himself again. Trent doesn't seem like the guy to overstay his welcome. He's got his money. He's going to get a Hall of Fame jacket one day and doesn't really need to stick around, but he does seem like someone that is aware of where he stands in the organization and in his NFL career. So it's good to see and hear a player just be open about that. Brock Purdy and Trent Williams have a lot of similarities in that kind of aspect where it's like they're both aware as to who they are as players and where they need to be in their careers. Just having this overt self-awareness of themselves, it gets you a long way in the NFL. And hopefully for Trent, he can play for a lot longer and kind of hold things down by, blocking Brock Purdy's backside. But one of the, I don't want to say issues, or it's one of the topics that kind of came out of speculation from Tim Kawakami was he could see one of the reasons Trent was gone for a little bit during the OTA sessions was that he wanted more guaranteed money on his deal. Now, when he was asked about that, Trent said, and I quote here, "I take everything 1 year at a time, and I feel like if my play warrants more guaranteed money or a new year or two on the deal or whatever, then I'm here for it. If not, then, it might be time to sail into the sunset. I understand what's going on, but I'm at the point where I'm not looking. I'm just going day by day. Whatever happens is going to happen." So you have Trent kind of towing the fence of like, yeah, I can play if my body holds up and my on-the-field production warrants that for 1-2 more years. And if that time comes and my play is a top 5 left tackle in the league, I may ask for more money. So Trent's kind of like, hey, if I'm still holding the fort down, next year there's going to be a contract holdout, and we're going to go through some of this, or there's going to be a renegotiation, restructure somewhere to funnel more money my way if I look that way. But he also being honest, saying like, if I'm not good, then I'm not asking for more. I'm content with where I'm at the current point. So you certainly want Trent to be Hall of Fame worthy and play that way for his entire career. But, being honest and being open about it, Trent's saying like, hey, like that may not be the case anymore for myself. But you love Trent. Happy he's back for another year. Hope he can play great and be here for the next 2 or 3 seasons. But as you inch towards 37, 38, Father Time comes a knocking and things can change rather quickly. All it takes is one ankle injury and it's over. But you hope that isn't the case. Love Trent. He's the silverback for a reason. He is just a monster in there, and we need him blocking for Brock Purdy this year. A lot of Mac Jones talk happening in the YouTube chat. Wow, I didn't think Mac Jones was so polarizing from the faithful. But Penali P asks here, wait, so they're not starting Mac Jones at quarterback? They'll probably start Mac Jones in the preseason. Obviously, you're being tongue-in-cheek here, Penali P, but am I wrong to think that taking away like the Jimmy Garoppolo quarterback 2-year and the Brock Purdy quarterback 3-year, like Mac Jones may be the best backup quarterback of the Brock Purdy era? Think that's okay. I think Mac Jones could be maybe the best backup quarterback Shanahan's ever had besides Brock Purdy, and I don't really count 2022 with Jimmy because he was just not supposed to be here but brought back. So I think Mac Jones has the potential to be this regime's best backup quarterback, not named Brock Purdy, they also had Sam Darnold, but I don't know, like Sam to me, I don't see Mac Jones leaving for a starting job elsewhere. Where Sam Darnold always kind of had that feeling of being a starter where it's always going to be a one-year stop and a reclamation project. So I can rephrase that. Yes, besides Sam Darnold and Brock Purdy, who Darnold has become a big money starter for Seattle and Minnesota last year, I do think Mac Jones has a really good future as a strictly backup quarterback in the NFL, at least for the next 2 years in San Francisco. I do think Mac Jones can be a really good quarterback too. Thank you, Kyle Chipto and Benali people pointing out Sam Darnold for me. Almost forgot. He's the enemy now, so I just erased it from my mind entirely. That said, let's move to the final topic of today's show, that being Bryce Huff, because Bryce Huff, I think, has the fan base giddy and excited, and I think we have kind of all said the same thing of like, you can't hate the move. It's very low risk, high reward, fits the defense. It's solid. It's the wide 9. It's a third down pass rusher. You're not paying him much money. What's not to like? And a lot of the connections and dots people have turned to and kind of compared Huff to is D Ford. And when fans do that, you go, okay, that makes sense, whatever. But when coaches and players do that, that's when things become kind of, the full picture is shown as to what San Francisco was really looking for. Because today, Kyle Shanahan said, Bryce Huff affects the quarterback. We talk about just getting off the ball and how fast he does it. It'll be our best get off the ball guy we've had since D Ford. And yeah, that is exactly what they're looking for. A lot was made of what Saleh did in the draft of, well, Mykel Williams is the edge rusher. He's the guy that can play inside and outside. He's the Eric Armstead. Alfred Collins is the DeForest Buckner. And CJ West is the DJ Jones. That same offseason, they went and got their D Ford. Now, obviously, you cannot do a one-for-one comparison, but the archetypes are what we're kind of talking about here of like, these guys fit the archetype of what they were wanting to recreate with that 2019 Niners defense. You now have the archetypes of that defense in the wide 9, and they have to go out there and play well. They can't go out there and suck because whatever, but the archetypes are in place. You now have your speed rusher. You have your versatile guy that can go inside and outside. You have your run stuffers, and you have your high upside run defenders with good pass rushing skills as well. So you love to hear that from Kyle Shanahan, but I believe it was Trent Williams who also made the D Ford comparison. And we talked about last week that having Trent back with Mykel Williams, with Bryce Huff, is going to help their growth so much, like it did Nick Bosa. I think having now Nick Bosa and Trent with those two guys will help them grow so much. But knowing and kind of confirming the thought of like, Robert Saleh really is trying to put back that 2019 defense together with different players, mind you, but you are like, yeah, this is the picture. This is the growth. Like, this is what they're going for here. Whether Saleh's here for 1, 2, 5, who knows how long he'll be here. My assumption is 1 year. But if it works out and how good that team was, it set San Francisco up for future success with those players, knowing you have Mykel, West, and Collins under contract for the next 4 to 5 seasons. Your core on the defensive line's intact. That was a big reason for San Francisco's success, was having a core on the defensive line. Nick, D Ford, who was hurt a lot, but still, D Ford, Buckner, and Armstead, and you had DJ Jones. Getting that core archetype players back together really is what San Francisco needed, and you're hoping that Bryce Huff can be that for them. The good thing about it is if he is that, they can redo his contract. They can extend him again. They do have a 2-year contract with him, albeit airs now after this year. So they can work that sucker right, and they can keep that group together for a long time. One comment I do want to hit on here is that Bobo says Mike McDaniels from the Dolphins, formerly San Francisco, is getting fired soon. He'll be here again next season. I wouldn't be shocked to watch McDaniel get fired this year by the Dolphins. Kubiak leaves San Francisco like his brother did, who's now in Seattle with Sam Darnold, and Mike McDaniel take over the offensive coordinator role once again, rehab his image like he did, like Saul is kind of doing for a year, maybe 2, who knows. But I think you're onto something there, or dangerous here. You see McDaniel and DeMeco Ryans team up in Houston. That would be really fun. But that's a whole different conversation for a whole different day. Leon Sandcastle says in the YouTube comments to end today's show, my best case scenario is they do so good that Brock doesn't need to play week 18 and Mac Jones looks good in that game. And they can trade Jones to a team looking for a bridge quarterback. And in 2026, have Brock, Tanner Mordecai, and Curtis Rourke. That's certainly an option. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of quarterback turnover. Pittsburgh Steelers, Indianapolis Colts, the Miami Dolphins. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are probably not going to be where they are this year, next season. You may see the New York Giants, albeit they have Jackson Dart. Maybe they want kind of a top-tier backup or whatnot. Who knows? There's so many moving parts. Maybe in Minnesota, their quarterback in McCarthy doesn't play well. Insert Mac Jones, and boom, boom, boom. You have your Sam Darnold 2.0 out there with Kevin O'Connell. A lot to look forward to this year. I do think they drafted Curtis Rourke to stash him for a season. We haven't seen him yet, so I cannot make any assumptions or assessments on him. But I hope that we do see these quarterback room play and push each other to further heights in 2025. But we have one more day of mandatory minicamp. That is tomorrow, so stay tuned for that show after practice. And also, in between the big gap in between mandatory minicamp and training camp, I will be giving my scouting reports on every single Niners draft pick to bridge that gap in the next couple weeks or so, because football is right around the corner. It sounds crazy, but it's almost here, and I cannot wait. So you don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the show. Give us that 5-star audio podcasting review. You can follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or the Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. You can use that promo code 49ersaccess, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase, and grab yourself a can of goat fuel down below. It is the best energy drink on the market. Use our link down below and save yourself 10% off your case. And then I want to thank everybody else in the YouTube chat: Benali P, Papa J, Bobo, Leon Sandcastle, Lori Matthews, Kawa Chipto, and so many more. I appreciate your time. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you tomorrow for the final mandatory minicamp episode of the show before we get into NFL training camp in less than 1 month. My name is Sterling Bennett, and until tomorrow, as always, stay faithful.